calling for the child maintenance defaulters to be blacklisted. Denise says today in our country, fathers who do not pay child maintenance do not face the full might of the law. But ordinary South Africans who don't pay their bills have their credit records affected. And for more on the story in our C Point studio, we're now joined by Denise Robinson, Dawn's leader. Denise, welcome to AM News and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you too. Now, I just want to just say this again. I mean, Dawn is calling for the child maintenance defaulters to be blacklisted. What led to this initiative? I mean, it's rather drastic, however, very brave.
There are so many parents who struggle to maintain and look after their children and to give them the sort of lives that they deserve. And in many cases, they are fine fathers who do what they should do. And sometimes mothers are also the people who are responsible for paying maintenance. But there are some serial defaulters, people who are not taking responsibility and deliberately evade and avoid paying up what they can do. Some people represent themselves as being destitute and not able to pay. Meantime, their money has been transferred into family trusts and so on. We are just wanting to help children to have the lives that they deserve. There are almost 9 million children who grow up without the influence and the support of a father. Now, to have a good relationship, one needs to have parents, mothers and fathers, being part of the upbringing of children. And we are saying, if you make a baby, you must take responsibility for that child for the rest of your life. We can't just have people having casual sex and walking away from a relationship and not taking responsibility for the children. So these are serial offenders, people who deliberately flout the law. And we are saying, if you don't pay your bills, then you get blacklisted. Why should this not apply to parents who don't take on the responsibility of looking after their children? Circumstances differ from case to case, but we also say that we need to look at the credit regulations. There is a clause that already allows the blacklisting, but it's not being implemented. Now, we are going to be talking to the credit regulator to see if this can be improved. But there are also problems with the maintenance courts. Sometimes it is extremely difficult for mothers and fathers to get the correct measures to help them when there is defaulting.
Now, Denise, I just have to interrupt you there for a moment. Sorry for that. But I wanted to understand, do you think the government, or the system rather, is lenient on defaulters? Because I remember in my intro I mentioned that Dawn feels that defaulters, maintenance defaulters, need to be blacklisted because ordinary South Africans' credit records are already affected. So do you think the system is lenient on defaulters?
Yes, I think the system is lenient. In many cases, the system doesn't work. For example, garnishee orders, which are applied in many cases, are not effective. So I think we're looking at a crackdown on the system generally to see what one can do to protect the children and to make sure that families have the financial support that they need. And where there are problems, we want to identify them, but we certainly need to crack down on those people who are serial defaulters. And where there are problems, we need to look into those and see that those who provide the guidance, the maintenance, the prosecutors, the magistrates, that they are well informed, that they are properly trained, so that the systems can work to help the children.
And according to your research and statistics, how do child maintenance defaults affect children?
Well, if you're hungry and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you're living in a family where there's extreme tension because you're unhappy and because there's tension between the parents, this doesn't lead to stability. And I think children who grow up under these circumstances are very often vulnerable, and they are the children who very often get involved with drug abuse and alcohol abuse. Every child needs a stable home situation, and we want parents, whether they are together or separated for some reason, to work together, and that you don't have children being at a tug of war between parents. alienation of one parent from another and from the children is not recommended either. This is a very complex problem, and it deals with gender justice, social and justice issues, and we're wanting to look at the whole spectrum. But where we can crack down on people who are serial offenders, who are deliberately not paying when they can do so, we need to make sure that the full might of the law does crack down on those people. We want a just system. The human rights of everybody, including, should be recognized in our democratic constitution.
Now, as you passionately, of course, relay your proposal as Dawn, as the Democratic Alliance Women's Network, for defaulters to be blacklisted, I can pick up that, if fully implemented, you positively believe that it would, curb this challenge. But I suppose my question to you is then, how do you plan to account the system should this proposal be accepted and implemented?
Well, I think this is going to be a complex task. This would be up to the credit regulator, and we are in conversation with them. But we're also wanting to talk to the maintenance courts and to the officers who implement these laws and who make the arrangements between parents for the maintenance of their children. I think generally one needs far more support of families. Social workers, for example, they are desperately needed. We don't have enough social workers within our system, whether it's in the justice system, whether it's within the courts, or even at the police stations, where we have many cases of abuse and rape and various other abuses taking place. We need to provide support to families because many people are under threat. And very often young people who have children, when they themselves are children, are not able to cope with the stresses of parenting. So we want to encourage young people to have babies only when they are ready for that responsibility. So it's something that we're looking at in a very wide field. And we are wanting to help young people and older people who are struggling with parenting to be able to do the best that they can for their children.
All right.
But financial responsibility is something that cannot be shirked. People must take responsibility. If you have a child, if you make a baby, make sure that you are ready to look after that child and to provide the support that is needed.
All right. Thank you so much, Denise Robinson. Thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.